Do all ideas deserve a fair hearing?
Yes.
But what about ideas who have had their fair hearing and have been widely discredited and rejected? With the recent punching of white supremacist Richard Spencer and protesters shutting down scheduled appearances by racist, misogynist, professional internet troll Milo Yiannopoulos.
Okay, you've already proven that you haven't given Milo a fair hearing. If you had, you'd know that he's not a racist in the very least.
I've heard many people arguing that the likes of Spencer and Yiannopoulos should be allowed to have their say, that their voices ought to be heard, so that if their claims are false or their rhetoric is harmful, we can respond in kind, with the truth.
Precisely right, Steve. That's what I and many other YouTubers have been doing with people like you for a good while by making response videos, and it's worked out pretty well for us so far.
In principle, that's a fine notion, particularly when we're talking about the role the government plays in regulating speech. Do we want the state stepping in and saying that there are certain things we just can't say, no matter how vile those things might be? No, I don't think most of us would want that. But does that mean that every propagator of every theory and ideology is entitled to a platform and an audience? No, of course not. And since when has that ever been the case?
Except neither Milo nor Richard has ever done that. Milo was going to be putting on an event that the people in charge of the academy had already agreed to. He wasn't claiming to be entitled to anything, and he is allowed to have an audience if said audience appoints to be there. You're talking about it as if his audience was being held captive at an event he wasn't invited to, which isn't the case at all. As for Richard Spencer, he was answering questions from someone who was recording him. And you're saying that that somehow negates his right to not get punched in the face when he hasn't attacked anyone.
We ignore people promoting what we have come to regard as bad ideas all the time. It happens in science, it happens in politics, it happens in our everyday lives.
Keyword here being ignore. If you start a riot to get a scheduled event shut down or punch someone in the face, you're not ignoring them. You're clearly responding to them, in the worst possible way, too.
There comes a point where the argument is over, where continued discourse on the matter would be of no use to anyone other than the most stubborn, die-hard supporters of a roundly rejected position.
If these positions are so widely rejected, why do you have to block so many people that disagree with you, Steve? From the looks of it, many of your positions have been widely rejected. Does that mean it's okay for me to punch you in the face, or to try and get your YouTube channel banned?
The thing is, it's not just better ideas that defeat bad ideas. My friend Eli Bosnic made this point on Twitter a few days ago. I'm saying he's my friend, but we don't really know each other that well. I like him, I think he likes me, so I'm saying he's my friend. And if Eli has a problem with that, he can come find me and I'll take care of his problem for him. How about that? Actually, no, forget that last bit. Eli and I have only met in person once and we're about the same size and I can't fight like at all. So if he can handle himself even a little bit, that might go really badly for me. My casual acquaintance Eli Bosnic made this point on Twitter a few days ago. Refuting bad ideas with good ideas is important, but so is removing bad ideas from the discourse.
But you haven't refuted Milo's ideas. And you can't do that unless you actually show up at the event and ask him a question that he can't answer.
Do they have the right to continue to speak in support of their bad ideas? Sure they do. Do they have the right to a platform to better enable them to disseminate those ideas?
If the platform in question has given them consent to give their speeches, then yes, they do. Throughout this entire video, you've completely misrepresented the circumstances surrounding those situations.
Let them speak, but let it be from atop an apple crate on a street corner.
Steve, Richard Spencer literally was on a street corner when he was punched. Does he really need to be standing on top of an apple crate in order for laws against assault to continue to apply for him?
Not on a stage at a university or in front of a radio microphone or a television camera.
Steve, if you're saying that they aren't allowed to talk on a stage or in front of a microphone and or camera, then you're still restricting free speech. If someone wants them to speak in front of their camera or on their stage, they have a right to allow them to speak. If the university had refused to allow Milo to speak, that'd be one thing, but they consented to the event. So who are you to say that they can't allow him to speak on their campus? On top of that, throughout this whole video you keep claiming that their ideas have been debunked. You might have a point with that in the case of Richard Spencer, but I've yet to see you demonstrate how Milo's ideas have been debunked in any way. What you're doing is known as the irrelevant thesis, which is when you don't refute the opposing side but act as though you did. And that's the end of the video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.